20 years ago on a Tuesday, I was planning to stay home from work because I was sick as a dog. And as I faded in and out of sleep, listening to the same sports comedy station I listened to every morning, all of a sudden I realized something was wrong. That station wasn't funny anymore. And our nation experienced one of the greatest tragedies that we've ever felt, an attack on our own soil, using our own airlines and costing the lives of many U.S. citizens. You know, as we pause to reflect this weekend on what we learned, because we promised we would never forget. But I think more important than never forgetting the attack and the fear and the things that happened is we should remember the sacrifices and the way that our country came together after and around that event. The brave souls that charged into buildings, the people that forced their way into a cockpit to prevent further loss of life. And I think it would be great if our country remembered that feeling now and came back together. Let's pause for a few seconds and remember. Good morning. As you can tell, this is a little bit of a different day here in our church. It's a special day for our church. It's the 12th anniversary of the launch of our church. You know, and over the past year, we've just had so many of you join us on our online service, and so many people actually in our services that are brand new. That we thought today, we usually do like a vision cast a couple of times a year. But today I wanted to just do a little bit more of a conversation, apart from my normal message format, and just talk about what God has called us to do here in Palm Bay. Give you a little bit of history on us, who we are, and what God has called us to be a part of here in Palm Bay. But before I do that, I want to welcome you to Bay West Church. Thank you for being here. Whether this is your first Sunday, what a great day to show up. You know, if you've been here every Sunday for a while, we're so glad that you're here today. If you would ever like to come in person, we meet at 11:15 on Sundays at 100 Emerson Drive, Northwest, Palm Bay, Florida, 32907. We'd love to have you there. If you're a parent, we have Kids Zone, which meets for our nursery, preschool, and our elementary kids. And we would love to have them be a part of this really fun, great time. If you're not comfortable coming out, which totally understand, you know, but you would still like help, you know, in that area, we can give you a taste of Kids Zone at home. You can go to Facebook and search Bay West Kids Zone, and we have a group there where our children's leader, Maggie Pearson, puts up content each week, videos that you can watch with your child that are fun and they're exciting and they're scriptural based. And we also put up a discussion guide where you can ask your child some questions and you can talk through and have a conversation that augments what you're doing as the primary disciple maker in the home. You know, if you're not a part of a life group, we would love you to be a part of that. That's a healthy part of our church here at Bay West. These are small group Bible studies that meet in and around Palm Bay, both in the room and on Zoom. Some of them totally on Zoom, some of them in the room, and some of them hybrid, with some people meeting online and while we do have people in the room as well. It's a great place to get to know people and to grow as a disciple of Jesus. You can go to baywestchurch.com/groups and find out more about that. Just click on join a group, and there's our group, and then click the group you want to join, and a leader will get in touch with you soon. If you would like to follow on my notes, you can do that at baywestchurch.com/notes. It's really going to be more of a conversation today, not so much of a point sermon. I'm just going to talk about some questions and things today, and more like an FAQ session in a lot of ways of what we're doing. So, but you can follow along there if you'd like to give your tithes and offerings. Obviously, we make that opportunity for obedience available should you choose to take that. You can give securely at baywestchurch.com/give, or if you're a check person, you can make it out to Bay West Church and send it into Bay West Church, 100 Emerson Drive, Northwest, Palm Bay, Florida, 32907. But before we talk about the vision that God has given us for Palm Bay, I'm going to ask Josue Gomez and his team to lead us in some musical worship.
light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. Sing with me, that is who you are. That is who you are. Oh, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are.
Let me give you a little bit of the history of Bay West Church. You know, Bay West Church started 12 years ago as actually the Bay West campus of First Baptist Church of Melbourne. Pastor Larry Baser there had really had a heart for Palm Bay and had tried in many configurations with his church, in partnership with churches, in partnership with the Brevard Baptist Association to try to start many different churches in Palm Bay. And those ministries were short-lived, but Larry felt that God was calling him to try to establish something that would last longer. And so I had come on to be the minister of young adults at First Baptist, dealing with people from 18 to 35, single, college, young married. And he said, Jim, would you consider starting a campus and leading that effort for us? I had had some experience with that at a previous church. And so I prayed, and in October of 2018, I said yes to what the Lord was calling me to do. Even though I've never done that, I'd never done it before as the primary leader. Like I said, I had helped at a previous church and seen how they did it, but never thought that I would be leading that. You know, but God called me to it. And so we started on the second Sunday in September in 2009, we launched the Bay West campus. And in 2017, 4 years ago, we separated from First Baptist, from being one church, two locations, to being just our own autonomous church. Like a child who leaves the home and starts their own life, we started ours in 2017. And God has just blessed us throughout that. I remember He's moved throughout this time from the beginnings. Interestingly enough, just the experience of me being able to know to do it. Our pastor at a previous church just really stepped out on faith. And in this situation, when Larry decided to do this and led our church at First Baptist to do this, stepping out on faith, $100,000 behind budget, just taking on this new expense. And God just has moved mightily. I remember one of my earliest memories of God moving was on the day that we had our equipment delivered to Heritage High School, which is where we started meeting. We actually started meeting in Heritage High School when Heritage High School opened. They only had 9th and 10th grade students there at that time. And we brought all this equipment, this big semi of equipment in, and we were going to store it in paying rent to the school there. And we had one room we could put it in. And the consultant that came down and designed all of our equipment, he actually had it designed and measured out the cabinets and all that. They said, well, here's the room you have, but you're going to have this one big giant 12-foot case that won't fit in there. And that's in an empty room. And I talked with the AP about it and Bruce Kamak, and he was just like, man, don't worry about it. We'll work with you. And they were great and so awesome. They're from BPS with us. And so, but when we got down there that day, we walked into the room and there was a big set of gorilla racks down the side of the storage room, empty except for the gorilla racks. And the measurements were with nothing else in the room. And I remember going out in the parking lot and I just prayed. I was like, God, please, please. You need to do something here. Help us out. And I don't know how it happened, but the Lord, when we put all the cases in the room, everything fit. Even the cases that weren't supposed to be able to fit in the empty room. You know, now whether somebody measured wrong or whether somebody made the room a little bit bigger, because when we measured it, it was literally it was still in construction. You know, it was literally just no sheetrock on the walls or anything. It was just studs. Whether he changed that or somebody measured wrong, I don't care. The Lord made it work, and He's been making it work ever since here at Bay West Church. You know, when we started Bay West Church, we really started it with not a call to go, but a call to serve. because we really based that really off of Matthew 28, 19 and 20, which is called the Great Commission if you've been around church much. It's pretty simple. It says, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. See, our mission here is to make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God. And making disciples is what we do. That's helping people to know Jesus, and then helping those people who know Jesus progress to a closer relationship with Him. That's it. You know, our mission isn't to feed the world. Our mission isn't to fix America. Our mission isn't to stop racism or to get people in office or out of office. You know, that's not what we're about. We believe that all the problems that you see in our culture and community spring from one place, and that's from sin. And the only person who deals with sin in the heart of individual people, therefore and also throughout our society, is Jesus. And so our mission is to make disciples of Jesus. You know, we do that because we believe the Bible and that Jesus is the answer for everything. As trite as that sounds, you know, it's not having a job, it's not having a home, it's not social programs, it's not laws, it's not government, it's not charity, it's not taxation, it's not having a college education that's going to save people. It's Jesus is the only answer, not just for our community, our city, our county, our state, our nation, but for our world. And that's it. And Bay West Church is about helping people become more mature disciples of Christ. So what is a disciple? We find that in Mark chapter 1, verse 17. Jesus said to them, "Follow me and I will make you become fishers of men." A disciple is simply this. It's someone who follows Jesus, is becoming more and more like Jesus, and leads other people to be like Jesus. You know, that's what we're trying to accomplish. See, if you follow Jesus, you care about other people. If you follow Jesus, you'll not think about others as less important than you. In fact, on the contrary, you'll think about others as more important than you, as Paul speaks about in Philippians. The righteous are always generous. They always help others, and as we know from Proverbs. And when we are marked by love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, which is the fruit of the Spirit that Paul talks about, what emulates from the life of a Christ follower when God is in control, and every day looks when every day looks like we look to take whatever circumstances we are in front of us and honor Christ through it. Because what the people are is what the society becomes. We believe this is the best way to improve our world, is to make disciples. You know, when we talk about biblical citizenship or a topic like that, we're not talking about a blind devotion to the founders and the Constitution, you know, but a devotion to God and how He says to exist in whatever surroundings we are in. You know, we are completely devoted to Jesus, and being that, and in being that, our country gets better. You know, that's our solution to the world. So what is our vision? Really, when you're talking about vision, you're talking about what does that look like? Really, the way you find out what that looks like is you have to go back, you know, and see what it looked like in the early church. You know, in Acts chapter 2, 42 through 47, it says, "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. And all the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved." So when we started Bay West, we're looking at those passages that describe how the early church was. How do we emulate that? Because people talk about wanting to be a first century church, but the truth is we're not living in the first century anymore. So how do we take the principles of that and how do we display them today? And we came up, a team that started at the very beginning of Bay West, several couples that were starting our church, you know, got together and prayed over several weeks, and we came up with the core values of Bay West Church that we call the 6. You know, and this is what we seek to guide our church by. And honestly, I don't think we had any idea the the extent that these values would creep into our lives and what they could be for us. They're this. Here's the 6 values. 1 is seek God faithfully through His Word and through prayer. 2 is attentively love and value all people. 3 is eagerly participate honestly in worship. 4 is cultivate relationships with God's purposes in mind. 5 is give and serve generously. And 6 is live a life that communicates Christ. See, all of the values come from that passage in Acts 2. And we believe not only is that a governing sketch of how we should be as a church, but we believe that extends down with our vision to the individual believer. You know, if you find someone who comes to know Christ for the first time, you know, you could take those core values and teach what they mean from scriptures that we have assigned and help them get on the road to a self-sustaining relationship with Christ. Those are great check marks, you know, in times of my life when I'm going, you know, my spiritual life might not be as fruitful, or it might be a little bit stale. You know, I'll go, okay, am I seeking God through His Word and through prayer faithfully? You know, am I really loving and valuing all people? You know, am I eagerly participating honestly in worship? Do I see both inside the church and outside the church? Is my life a whole thing of worship? And a lot of times I go through those values, I'll find, okay, here's one that I'm not really rocking the boat on, you know, and that will help me kind of as a diagnostic tool of my life. You know, that's the values that we have as a church and that we want to promote from every person that's a part of our church. So what are the expectations of someone who's a part of Baywest Church? You know, well, it's pretty simple. We have some internal expectations and external expectations. And the internal always mirror and spill over into the external. You know, in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24 and 25, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. You know, from those verses, we came up with something we call the Bay Way. You know, it encompasses our core values, it encompasses who we are, and it really encompasses what we expect of people who are part of our church. You know, first it's B-A-Y. It's an acrostic, and the first one is be here. If you're in town, you're in church. If you're in town, you're at your life group. If you're here, and when you're here, you're here. You know, and not only just attendance and being here, both mentally and physically, but also among friends. We expect you to invest in relationships in our church. Get to know people. You know, get to know people that are. Don't allow people to come into your life that, you know, that you're not willing to start a relationship with, because God let them enter your life for a reason, at whatever level that relationship might be. As casual acquaintance or friend, God has a reason for you to be there to learn things from that and for you to show who He is in the middle of it in ways that you may never see the end of. But we also want you to invest in being a part of a life group and to getting to know people and having accountability and helping hold others accountable in our church. But also, your part. That's the why. That's people who give and serve generously. And we want that to be marked in our church as well, but we also want it to mirror outside of our church. You know, faithfulness is, you know, to do your part, you know, even in the most unglamorous of things. It's usually the difference between big gains and large failures. You know, but not only internally, we want to extend externally. You know, externally, the way we look at the world around us really comes from a verse in Jeremiah 29. It's Jeremiah 29:7. And it says this, is also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. You see, the situation was there. This was God given a strategy and a command to His people that were in exile, both in Babylon and in Egypt. They were in a foreign country that was hostile to the ways of their faith, that was hostile to them, and didn't really care about who and what they were. But God called them, hey, I want you to follow me. I want you to emulate me in the middle of this. But this is part of what I want you to do. I want you to seek the peace and prosperity of the city, the shalom of the city, the wholeness of the city to which I've carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. So we want to emulate all of those characteristics we see outside in the church. We see the church as we come together as a learning and training ground. You know, we learn to be generous. We have service as a part of our worship. We learn to be among friends and develop relationships. We learn to be present where we are. We follow God and we follow the Word and we emulate that in our culture. And we do that. One of the ways we do it is we establish Love the Bay, which is where we partner with the city on things. We might clean up a park or we may clean up a bus stop. But we're working for the prosperity of our city, not for the name of Bay West, not for the glory of our organization, not at all, but for the glory of the one whom we follow, Jesus. You know, and in fact, you know, I like for our life groups to engage in things like that. We do step out and do projects that help other people, not just people in our church, but people outside our church. You know, behind me actually is Discovery Elementary. You know, and one of the things that we've been able to do with them is start partnering to disciple young men, not mentor young men. You know, we go in and meet with 6th graders and 5th graders, and we help them to become better citizens of our country. You know, that's one way we can help partner with our city. You know, we have our Delivering Hope ministry, where we go out and go to homeless camps and help. Not so much to bring food. We bring food and we bring water and we're not enough, obviously, to keep them fed for a week or anything. But the biggest thing we do is develop relationships so that we can deliver a heartfelt, honest truth about the gospel of Jesus. You know, and in that building of a relationship, we can share Christ with people, which is the most valuable thing that we can give anyone. You know, we support and we pray for our leaders in the city. We pray for our leaders in our country and in our state. We believe prayer is important. And so we pray for that. We have a prayer team that prays for any prayer requests that come in. We have a place on our website. You can call and send in a prayer request. We'll pray for anybody. It doesn't matter, you know, who you are, whether you love Jesus. It doesn't matter if you're an atheist and you hate Jesus and you want prayer for some reason. We will pray for you. No questions asked, no strings attached, because we believe that God works in the lives of people. And we want to promote Christ and make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God. So what does that look like going forward? What do we need to do? Well, here's some things that we need to be. One, we need to be disciples. We need to grasp our process of making disciples. That's being able to share with someone how to come to Christ, but also teaching someone personally, investing in their life of how to follow the things that God has commanded. You know, he tells us that in Matthew 28, 19, and 20, you know, that we are also to teach people all the things that Jesus commanded us to do. We're supposed to help them do that. And in addition to all of that, being able to do it and being disciples ourselves, we need to be on the lookout for people to actively invest in. You know, and that's something that's really important for us. You know, in our city, looking at, as we look forward, a couple of things that we're doing is just to meet people and to be a part. We're doing, you know, internally for ourselves, we're doing Church in the Park here on September the 26th. We'll meet at Fred Poppy Park and we're going to have a potluck and stuff, and anybody's welcome to come. But also that whole week is in the park, because on the Saturday of that week, on October 2nd, we're actually going to be working with the Parks and Recreation Department of Palm Bay to do a movie in the park at Fred Poppy as well. And we're going to be helping along with that and sponsoring that, just to give our community a great place to go that's safe, and we'll be socially distancing outside watching an awesome movie for the family, The Cruise 2. You know, just a great movie. And we'll do things like that periodically as we going forward. So what does this vision accomplish? I want you to imagine with me for a second. Imagine your neighborhood, your neighbors, your friends, the people you work with. Imagine a community and a city and a county and a state that was marked, that the people who exhibited, the people who made it up were marked by love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, instead of division and greed and hate. Imagine businesses where the owners of the businesses considered others more important than themselves, more valuable than themselves, and did their business in such a way not that would make them the most money, but that would do the most good. Imagine a people that were so generous that they took care of people around them and didn't have to be forced or coerced or guilted. And all of these people did these things because they love a God who takes care of them, and they had a faith in God that allowed them to be courageous, to live this way, because they knew that he had their back and he took care of them. Imagine a relationship with a God of unlimited power, empowering a people with an unquestioned commitment to him to change the world, one story and one life at a time. Wouldn't you love to be a part of something like that? That's what I believe we could move our world toward. You wonder, why did I have this, did I film it outside? Obviously it was to be a little bit different here on a special Sunday, but really there were two reasons that drove it. The first thing is Bay West Church is not a building. So often we talk about the church and we're talking about a structure of brick and mortar that was built by a man. But see, Jesus built his church. And when he used the word that he used in Greek that is translated church into English is not about a building at all. It's about a group of people that are united around one common ideal, and in this case, around Jesus. See, I want us to understand that Jesus' church is people. It's not about a building. The second thing is this. I want us to be known more for what we do outside of an auditorium than what we do inside it. So often we think of church and we think of what a church is. We look at the production that's done on a Sunday morning. And that's less than 5% of the time, even lower than that, of the time that we have in our week. So 95 to 99% of the time that we spend throughout a week is done outside of that presentation. I want us to be known for being God's people outside of the walls of the church. To save a world, we can't just meet together, and limit our effectiveness to being a group of people who meet away from the world, and that's all we are. That's why Bay West Church isn't going to come up meeting together, but also we don't put together a calendar that burdens everyone with endless social events that are just about us and just about being where we are. See, the world we live in needs Jesus, and the world needs people who are in the world but not of it, living the light of Christ in board meetings and classrooms and behind cash registers and repairing your washing machine and fixing your car, being Jesus in those situations. This time in our culture is marked so much by a distrust for organizations and a trust for the end user. When we go to find out what's going on in our world, when we have to make a big decision, we buy a car, we buy a house, we try something new, a workout plan, whatever it is, where do you go? You go to your friends that you see living it out. And I think that dovetails right into the strategy that God had. Saving a world won't be done by a mass marketing presentation, but by the daily living and example that people give who thrive and suffer and fail and succeed in following Jesus, and they do not quit. That's the life of a disciple, daily taking up your cross, and that has been given to you and honoring God in the middle of pain and hardship and happiness and in serendipity. See, that's what God called us to do as a people, as a part of a larger movement that's His. You see, it's not about a brand. It's not about a building. It's about a Savior who came to save you. And He's the only thing good that's in any of us. That's why you won't really hear us talk about Bay West. Well, we're better than this church. We're better than that church. We're all team members of the same family under God. And we want to live out our mission together in our community, in community with the whole church, following Christ and lifting His name up because He is worthy. And that's our mission. And that's kind of who we are. I want to thank you so much for being a part today. I would love to see you come and be a part of us in person. We meet 11:15 on Sundays at 100 Emerson Drive, Northwest, Palm Bay, Florida, 32907. We would love to see you there. If you're not able to come, or you're not capable at this point, or you don't feel comfortable with COVID, we totally understand. So we're going to be right here as well. We'd love for you to join a life group, and I think that would be a great thing, whether that's on Zoom or in the room, because it's good to have community around you that's helping you to follow Jesus. Well, I want to thank you so much. We're going to be talking next week about the dangers of ingratitude. I think that's a big problem with our culture right now, is we have an epidemic of ingratitude. And the Bible speaks specifically about the dangers of when we live in a life that's filled with ingratitude and not gratitude. I'm going to talk about that next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Later.